Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Bad Baby. And tonight we have with us Robert Evans, and we are going to be talking about Planet X. And he has some compelling information about Zachariah Skitchen and also a meteor that exploded over Cuba today. So let's get Robert out here. And let me see if I can get him unmuted. Oh, I don't think he is muted. Are you still with me, Robert? Oh, okay. I thought I muted you.
Yes, I am.
I guess I didn't mute you. Well, welcome to the call tonight. Thank you for joining us. And how are you doing over there in sunny California?
Well, it's kind of raining right now. They're expecting high winds in tonight and tomorrow. So we have a storm coming in.
You know, I was watching the Weather Channel, and you know, we just went through the polar vortex. We actually were 40 below here in my area in Michigan, wind chill factor.
Yes.
And today we went to 9 degrees. I think we went to 9 degrees, and that was above. Usually, the last 3 days we've been below zero. And I said, "Oh my God, 9 degrees! I'm going to get my bathing suit out."
Well, I'm not sure what's happening. The Weather Channel can't figure out what's going on either. You know, we're just going to have to sit still. But with this thing incoming, it is affecting the Earth's weather right now, which was really clear in the Bible. The Sumerian text, the Babylonian text, the whole bunch of Zachariah Sitchin, to his credit, looked at every fricking thing, every text, every that talked about the Sumerians, the Anunnaki. He went to the root words in ancient Hebrew, which all this stuff originally started with, somewhere around there, and he just tore it all apart. And he put it in the right reading structure for a lot of people that could comprehend what he put down. His first book, which was the one I should have been reading all this time, The 12th Planet. That one book tells virtually everything. How the ancient texts that were put down by the Sumerians, by all these other people that were back then, and also the first part of the Bible. Let's see, what's that thing called? It's you know, really interesting, all this stuff. Let's see. Genesis, the book of Genesis. And it all lays out everything, okay? In Genesis, you have the ancient people calling all the planets. You have the sun called Apsu. And then I probably should tell you exactly what it says. That way it doesn't screw things up here. See if I can dig it back up real quick.
You know, while you're trying to do that, I want to mention that I was watching on the History Channel, and, you know, on the History Channel, and this is kind of compelling because they keep showing things that happened to the woolly mammoth and the Homo sapiens, how they endure cold and how most of them were wiped out during a polar vortex, basically, but except for the ones on the outer edge of this polar vortex. And um, I was thinking the other day about my interview with Ann Eller, and Ann Eller had a UFO encounter many, many years ago, and she quit her job as a registered nurse and started working with a professor. And when I interviewed her, she talked about how she was told that the rotation of our planet was going to slow before this object spins around the sun. And she said, "Did you ever see a top? When you spin a top, it spins fast, 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 and then it slows down, and it starts teetering back and forth, and then eventually it falls over on its side." She said, "This is exactly what's going to happen with our planet." And I seem to think my theory on the way the jet stream's moving, the polar vortex is happening, is that we're at the point where the planet is coming in, but it's not ready to spin around the sun yet, I don't feel, but it is affecting our planet, and we're at the stage where we're doing that slowing down of our planet and wobbling back and forth. Now, one of the things that they said on the Weather Channel the other day was that there's another polar vortex that's coming off of the North Pole, but this one's going to go over to Russia. But the one that just came down into Michigan is kind of going back up into Canada. And did you know that the outer edge of it is going to come down Washington State and California?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard almost the same thing from other people, yes. This has happened before, okay?
Yes.
5,200 years ago, according to the Mayans, that was the end of the last time of the count. And we know it because we found there's a big glacier up in the Andes Mountains down in South America. It's been receding, and as it was receding, they found plants that were underneath the ice, and they carbon dated these grown plants. They're all dead, but they still carbon dated them to 5,200 years ago. So something happened back then that caused ice to suddenly go over normal grass. Now, the thing with the woolly mammoths up in Siberia, up in those areas, they were frozen while they were eating grass. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of the animals they found green grass in their stomachs, in their throat. So they were eating nicely green grass before they were quickly frozen. I mean, flash frozen. So something caused that. Okay? I'm not sure whether the planet Nibiru coming through did that, because the ancient accounts that I have that are on the internet, from Chinese Emperor Yahoo to Noah, Zayasudra, and a whole bunch of other names for Noah, and then for the Exodus, they don't mention flash frozen. Either one of those three accounts.
Well, another thing, Robert,
I can knock it.
The fact that here's another thing that proves that our planet is tipped, because have you researched what's going on in Brazil and in Australia right now? They're having extreme heat, extreme drought. The animals are dying from the heat down there. It's like we're tipping. Don't you think we're tipping?
Okay, during my research from 2007, I wandered into a whole bunch of different groups that had different information. And I started posting on Facebook. Okay? As I was posting, a whole bunch of people got a hold of me and gave me their information that they had found while they were researching. The powers that be have been preparing for either the Earth to shift or for the Earth's crust to shift southwest by about 20-something degrees. Because as Nibiru is coming in, see, the planet Nibiru has 13 satellites. NASA imaged Nibiru somehow, and I have the image, and it has black lines going out. It's been cropped. The image shows black lines going out to 13 objects. Now, since 2015, I have images of at least 11 of these planets or moons that we are seeing, have been seeing in our skies. So as Nibiru comes in, its very intense gravitational pull and the electromagnetic pull, including its other 13 satellites, that entire pull is going to pull the north underneath its south. And that's how it's going to affect the Earth. So its south pole is going to grab our north pole as it's starting to go past. That's where the shift of the planet is prepared for. From all the research I found, they've all been preparing for this. That's why China built huge cities up in the Mongolian desert. They're only now starting to let a lot of their elite live in those cities. China also built cities down in Africa, which are heavily guarded. No one's living them. England built huge cities under the mountains up in mind goes blank sometimes when I'm doing all this stuff. It's Ireland and Scotland, up in the Scottish mountains. We built a lot of cities underground, including the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, which are up in Norway, and almost every country that's had prepared for this has their own deep underground military bases. So all this stuff has already been done. Now, whether these things will survive this huge pole shift, geological pole shift, and possibly a magnetic pole shift at the same time, who knows? Okay? Time will tell what we're going to have when we go through the other side. They've already prepared all this stuff. The largest emergency seed vault, like the Doomsday Seed Vault up in Svalbard, Norway, is somewhere near the Denver airport up in Colorado. They've been keeping all this very quiet because they are going to sit back when things do start to happen, and they're going to let the powers that be are not going to give anyone any warning. They're just going to hide in their bunkers and let everything go the way it's going to go. Everyone that survives the water from the immense waves that hit almost every coast, just like you saw in the movie 2012. The survivors, they're going to be killing each other off over what's left. Humanity is a very vicious animal. You take all this stuff away, you'll have gangs, everything. They'll be roaming around, taking whatever they can get. So will a lot of normal people, because they want to survive. So the world's population is going to go right through the bottom part of your house right there. That way, they're hoping that when everything settles down, the dust settles, and they are able, if they are, once they pop up, they'll find a severely depleted population that survives all around the planet. Like I told you before, Pope John Paul II warned about this back in 1980. The Vatican tried to play down what he said after he said it. He was almost killed in 81 for telling what he did tell. The new Pope, Pope Francis, he has a deep underground military base somewhere in North or South Dakota. John Moore, in one of his videos, clearly states that. It has high antennas near it where they have heavy-duty coverage from the Vatican to there.
Yeah, according to
So,
Father
all this stuff's
Malachi.
going to come down.
Now, according to Father Malachi, he
sorry?
said that Father Malachi was on our Bell show, and he said that the third
Yes.
basically this is the third secret of Fatima, and that they decided not to tell the public what the secret was that they had supposedly to reveal. Weren't they supposed to reveal that like in the 60s, 69 or something like that? And when they read it and they decided that,
yes.
right, they did not reveal it because they felt it was too horrible. And so they felt it'd be better for humanity to keep it a secret. So they put it back away. But, I wonder sometimes about them keeping that concealed because the Virgin Mary gave that message to those three children. And it was given to those three children to warn us and I wonder if their motive to put it away, because so much of the Catholic Church is worshiping Satan now, if that was a way not to get people to get their life in alignment with the Lord, like don't let us know the truth that Wormwood's coming, I just wonder,
Exactly, yeah.
about that decision to, we can't let humanity know. Wait a minute. God came and told us that they wanted this revealed to us.
Exactly.
And I know there was a reason it was supposed to be revealed, and that was so people could get their spiritual life in order. So they're taking it upon their self to say, oh, we're not going to let you know so that you fall short. And I
Right.
come under such great attack for doing these shows. And it was so weird because when I quit doing my shows for about a year and a half, the Lord actually came in my dream and told me I had to go back on the air, and I did not know why. At that point, I didn't know anything about this planet. And I kept pleading with him, please don't let me go, don't make me do this. You know what happens to me, and he actually told me that I had promised him to do this a long time ago. So I do, in my heart of hearts, Robert, I believe that all of us that are out here doing this show, trying to warn people that this planet's coming in, I think that we were all chosen to come out here and try to get people through this and let them know the truth, because it's being greatly deceived.
It's a very distinct it's a very distinct possibility there, Bad Baby. Here's what Pope John Paul II said. He went to a town called Fulda, Fulda, over in Germany, and met with a nice large group of paying Catholics. And they also had one or two reporters there. The Holy Father was asked, what about the third secret of Fatima? Should it not have already been published in 1960? Pope John Paul II replied, given the seriousness of the contents, my predecessors in the Petrine office of the Vatican diplomatically preferred to postpone publication so as not to encourage the world power of communism to make certain moves. They would have grabbed land, they would have knocked over countries if they knew exactly what's coming. Well, they do actually know what's coming. The Holy John, let's see. On the other hand, it should be sufficient for all Christians to know this. If there is a message in which it is written that the oceans will flood whole areas of the earth, and that from one moment to the next, millions of people will perish, truly the publication of such a message is no longer something to be so much desired. The Pope continued, many wish to know simply from the curiosity and a taste for the sensational, but they forget that knowledge also implies responsibility. They only seek the satisfaction of their own curiosity, and that is dangerous if at the same time they are not disposed to do something, and if they are convinced that it is impossible to do anything against it. Okay? So that was up on the internet. It's 980 over in Europe. A lot of people never knew it didn't even exist. I never knew about it. Other people told me, look at this, Bob, look at that. So I looked at it. I found out that the Vatican tried to downplay what he said. This report was actually put out by the Vatican. It stayed up on the internet until last year when they pulled it, because I was putting the link to it up on Facebook, and a lot of people were going to go look at it. They pulled it. It's no longer at where it used to be. So
Yeah.
they know what's coming.
And the last time we did a show,
known about this.
they pulled the show.
Yes. The Vatican has known what's coming ever since Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, personally invited the Bishop of Los Angeles, Francis McIntyre, to be with him in 1954 at Holloman at Muroc Emergency Airfield. Now it's called I'm tired. He met with 3 alien races. The Greys, or a certain one of the Greys, a reptilian-looking race, and an interdimensional race called the Etherians. Okay? CERN over there in Switzerland is trying to open an interdimensional portal. I wonder why. These aliens, they wanted us to give up all of our nuclear weapons in return for a small amount of advanced technology. Eisenhower told them to shove it. They told Eisenhower and everyone else that this planet was coming in, followed by its brown dwarf star. Eisenhower in 1955 went to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico when his plane landed. It wasn't called Air Force One back then. When his plane landed, he stopped at the end of the field, never went anywhere further. They shut down the field. They shut down the base. They turned off the very early radar system stuff that we use every day now. The radar actually had shot down, had caused 3 ships in 1947 to crash in and around Roswell. The Army got one, the Navy got one, and the Army Air Force got one. And the Army, through Colonel Philip Corso, did reverse engineering a lot of the stuff. And ever since then, the President has been out of the loop of what's going on with this Majestic 12. Now it's the other ruling party that's out of the frame, that the people don't see, that the presidents don't work with. Okay? They've known for a long time what's coming in. Russia built over 5,000 bomb shelters in and around Moscow because Planet X is coming in. A high engineer up in Norway turned politician, and he outed everything. These deep underground military bases, the DUMBs, they're for the elite only. Not you and I, not for the general public, all around the planet. For the elite only. That's one reason why Secretary of State Clinton let uranium ore be sent through Canada going over to Russia, because Russia built huge cities under the Ural Mountains because Planet X is coming. All this stuff has been done. Very few people have been paying attention. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you sit down, watch the TV set. Your mind is not on these other things, except for right now. More and more people are paying attention to the skies.
Yes.
I sent you.
Okay.
I gave you one photograph a while back. One of my friends gave it to me. It's taken at nighttime. There's the moon, and here's a very bright red thing just to the right of the moon. The big bright red thing is the planet Nibiru, which all these ancient accounts that Zecharia Sitchin poured through for years, according to his brother's kid. What's that? What do you call that, Bad Baby? An uncle.
Oh,
kid.
You got me.
Niece.
She's on Facebook. I can think of
his niece. Yeah, his niece Janet Sitchin.
There you go,
She
Janet.
heard all this stuff, and she came out with her own book after her uncle died called the Anunnaki Chronicles. So Zecharia Sitchin, he did a fantastic job in the 12th Planet book, which was the first of about 12 or more books. And he went in there very detailed. Now let me get into that one excerpt thing I told you about. In the Epic of Creation, the sun is called Apsu. Mercury is Mumu. Venus is Lamu. Mars, Venus is Lahamu. Mars is Lamu. Tiamat's the interesting planet. They say that when, I don't know how they knew all this stuff, okay, but they put it down in writing 6,000 years ago, okay? So they knew that we only had 3 planets, mostly at first, and all these other planets came later. But, okay, Apsu is our sun. But Zecharia Sitchin said, all this written stuff said a new Apsu was also created. A new sun, or sun was starting. Okay? That's the brown dwarf we now know as Nemesis. Nemesis, for whatever reason, started out over there and it started its own system, but Nemesis was going down below our system by about 30 degrees. So it made a big planet called Marduk. That's in this Epic of Creation. And they say Marduk was a big planet, larger than Jupiter. Okay? And that it came up and it started to disrupt a lot of the planets in our solar system. It came up and it was actually heading towards Neptune originally. That's what this long stuff said that Zecharia Sitchin found. But as it came up towards Neptune, Saturn and Jupiter's intense gravity started to pull it towards them. Okay? So it was heading in towards them when it got pulled towards Tiamat. Tiamat was a large water world. Okay? And when it came up towards Tiamat, Tiamat's gravity caused Marduk to bulge at its equator and actually ripped out 4 pieces that became satellites orbiting around Marduk. As Marduk got closer and closer to Tiamat, one of the satellites hit Tiamat, splitting it in 2. Okay? Now, Tiamat had several satellites, but had one large planet called Kingu. Marduk took Kingu with it after it split Tiamat in 2. On its return, it made one orbit, one SAR. So that's 3,600 years. When it came back through, Marduk actually smashed one half of Tiamat, sending it into where there was no planet orbiting the third orbit around our sun. And it actually gave Kingu its planet to what became the Earth, but now its planet didn't have an atmosphere anymore. So that's why from Tiamat, which should have been between Mars and Jupiter, the Earth became in the third planet where we are now. And that's where we got the moon from. And he just tore all these ancient accounts and just told exactly. I mean, all of your listeners, they have to get this book from Zecharia Sitchin, The 12th Planet, and read it very carefully, because he did one heck of a good job tearing all these ancient things apart and putting it out where I could understand it.
You know, and
I'm
there's
quite sure
also,
a lot of your
Robert,
listeners are really gonna.
also on YouTube, they have videos of Stitchin's work too, if they can't get the book. I think there is some videos out there of Zecharia Sitchin that they can check out also. One of the things I want you to address is what... I'm sorry, you guys, because I have to explain what's going on here. Because I had to three-way Robert in with my phone, we have a little bit of a delay. So he doesn't hear me for a minute and I don't hear him for a minute. So if we're having a problem talking back and forth, this is why. There's just because I three-waying in through my house and we're getting a lot of feedback. So, you know, maybe we should say over. Anyways, I want you to address, Robert, what happened in Cuba today, because we are going to experience a debris field, and I'm wondering if what's going on is some of the stragglers that are before the planet that are coming in. What do you think about that?
Okay. Back in 1998, NASA engaged the SOHO satellite, which is halfway between the Earth and the Sun. And it started seeing a lot of these huge starships coming in. And these starships, many times, and it was all caught by NASA with the cameras on SOHO, and I have over 3,000 images from all these images. These starships were firing a massive beam of energy, taking out something, destroying something. How did they destroy it? Were they using a phaser beam or whatever? I cannot tell you. I can just tell you what the images show. Now, like Bad Baby just said, every immense planet, or even a planet, if it's swinging around its orbit, it has debris ahead of it, moving out in front of it. It has debris around it, and it has debris following it. Just like in the Bible said during Noah's, what happened back then, that all this stuff came down from the skies and did damage during that time. Noah's flood, or Ziasudra's flood, and Noah went by a whole bunch of names. Sudra was one of them. During the Exodus, which was actually the last time, 3,600 something years ago, firmly dated to 1615 BC by Joshua Gates and the TV show Expedition Unknown. Back in 2016, he went to Santorini with a scientist over there, where they sent a ROV, remote robot, down to the bottom of the crater around in the center of Santorini, find out the date. When did the Minoans disappear? The robot picked up certain rocks. They were able to date these certain rocks to 1615 BC. Now, an Egyptian named Ippawar, his account of the Exodus matches the Holy Bible's account almost to a T. He mentions that during the Exodus, volcanic ash was falling all over Egypt. Now, James Cameron, who made the movie Titanic and a whole bunch of other things, he did a film years ago with an Israeli film producer called Exodus Decoded. They worked with a German archaeologist up in Avaris, Egypt, and they found volcanic ash and pumice from what used to be called Thera, the Greek island of Thera. It erupted for about 8, almost 9 days, then it exploded, a huge eruption, sending a huge tidal wave over Crete right into Egypt. Now, Akhmos became the first Egyptian pharaoh to reunite Upper and Lower Egypt, starting the 18th Egyptian dynasty. Akhmos had a stela carved up to detail this huge storm that had not been seen by Egypt for many thousands of years. And he talks about how Egypt is virtually flooded up near the Nile Delta. Something that hard to even believe, but that was this huge tsunami that was sent out of the Greek island of Thera, hitting Crete, going into Egypt. Now, Ippawar, in his account, mentions a tsunami coming in, killing Pharaoh and his troops during the time of the Exodus, which we all know from the Bible. Okay? Very clearly, Ippawar said they were taken out. Now, the one thing that almost no one knows is that the Pharaoh during the Exodus was not an Egyptian Pharaoh. He was a Hyksos, Hyksos. They ruled Upper Nile Delta. Akhmos and his brother Chamos, they led a force coming from Lower Egypt and kicked the Hyksos out of Egypt. Akhmos became Pharaoh. Now, the term Akhmos in Hebrew means brother of Moses. That's why they can't talk about it, because that would get the Egyptians and the religion they have over there, the Muslim religion, very ticked off. because when they had their butts kicked for a while and they kicked out the Hyksos, they tried to erase Hyksos from all their history, but they were found. No one wants to talk about them. So that was the last time this thing was here. So I know there's been some type of idea that maybe this flash frozen thing would happen to the earth during this time, that we would all be dead because we're flash frozen. Flash freezing is not mentioned in either of the three earlier accounts that tell about what happens in human history, from Emperor Yahoo, 2900 BC, to Noah, Ziusudra's flood, 12,900 something years ago, to the Exodus, 1615 BC. And the powers that be know this. They've been working with the ETs. The Vatican has been working with the ETs. So they know exactly what to do, or at least they hope they knew exactly what to do. Because when this thing comes in and it causes this pole shift, or causes the earth to shift 20 or more degrees southwest, their deep underground military bases had better survive the earthquakes. Otherwise, they're not going to come up. And the survivors won't have to worry about them anymore. Now, supposedly, the ETs are working on our side. That's hard to believe. We have ETs that have been working against us, ETs that want to work with us. The ETs that want to work with us want the advanced human race that is now existing to step up to the next level. And everything I have heard, just me and my research, talking to other people, Eisenhower signed treaties with the wrong ETs. And the ETs are sitting on that knife edge right now, whether they are going to engage and help the humans survive, or let us all go back to the Stone Age. So the ETs, which are very real, Eisenhower knew that, the Vatican knows it. Let's see, the last Pope, Pope Benedict, he retired, the first Pope to retire in 600 years. After he retired, he went on German radio. I wish I could have gotten a nice recording of that. And he was blasting the Jesuits for their alien agenda. Okay? Pope Francis, as far as I know, he hasn't done anything like that, but it's being kept very secret if he has. So that's what's been coming down the pipe all this time. We've seen moons in our skies over Antarctica, over Illinois. People have been seeing these new moons which have nothing to do with our moon. Okay? We've been posting the pictures up on Facebook, various shows I've been on, showing all these 11 different looking moons. Now we're seeing a bluish moon or star, which goes in very good with the Hopi people, because the Hopi people say this blue star, blue moon, blue star, is showing up ahead of the red Kachina, Nibiru. Now, this ancient thing that Zacharias Sitchin went totally through, completely digging every little nuance, going back to ancient Hebrew to find the root words for everything that was written. He said in those writings that this thing was actually being predicted 6,000 years ago, prepared for 6,000 years ago, and they said then that was a big red planet. So they knew humanity has had a bad case of amnesia, like one of the other higher ET people. I can't think of his name right now. He mentioned that we have amnesia, where the Sumerians, the Babylonians, 6,000 years ago knew more about what's in our skies, how everything was put together than we do 6,000 years later. I mean, I have been reading through a lot of this stuff for a long time. I should have started reading his book, but all my friends on Facebook said, don't do that. Don't read his books. Don't read the other guy's books, Immanuel Velikovsky's books, because they're garbage. Well, I'm sorry. Zacharias Sitchin with the Lost Book of Enki. That's the first one I was told to read. Gave a lot of good information. Then I had these other PDFs I picked up during the time since 2007. So I decided to read it, his first book. And I'm sorry I didn't read this one first, because this laid all the groundwork for all of his later books, telling us exactly what's going to happen.
Well, one of the
Now,
things
all
we
this
have to
thing
do.
that's been happening. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. One of the things we have to do is not let other people do our thinking for us. And that's basically what I do with my show. I get flack because I have this person on that doesn't agree with that person. And, I'm sure you know, Robert, that I've had just about every Planet X researcher out there on here, and some of them conflict with each other. Some of them don't agree. Sometimes when I have one on, another one will message me and say, oh my God, I can't believe you're having him on. But you know what? I don't let other people do my thinking for me. And the only way we're going to learn is to hear everyone's opinion, everyone's view of it. And I'm sure not everyone, if we all looked the same and thought the same, we'd be boring. I mean, we need to expand our mind and get everyone's view on this. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do. And since I've been on Facebook since 2007, I have been posting all of the images that I myself found or my friends on Facebook found, and they let me copy their images and post them on my Facebook page. So on my Facebook page, I put up all the images, okay? Everyone on Facebook, because right now I'm posting in the public. So everyone on Facebook can see what I put up on a daily basis or every 3 days, whatever it is. So I have these images showing to everyone on Facebook what's coming. because sometime in 2016, that's when we started to start seeing both two suns in the skies. Now, they are not two suns. Our sun is our sun. The other red thing is the planet Nibiru, or Marduk, as it was told in the ancient tales 6,000 years ago. The Bible knows it. All the people, all the elite know it. The ISS station, late last year, took many photographs that got leaked down to the public from the station. Okay, so here's the curvature of the Earth. There's no more playing with, that's just, you know, that's a phony image. I'm sorry, no one, here's the curvature of the Earth, and there's that big red thing off in the distance. When they first saw it late last year, it was a little tiny fuzzy red dot. It's not fuzzy anymore. It's nice and clear. I don't know how fast its orbit is bringing it into us, but anytime you see something as a dot getting brighter, getting brighter, getting bright, means that something is heading right towards you. That's how anyone who knows about photographs or knows about car lights or a train in a tunnel, you see a little light at first, and the light gets brighter and brighter and brighter till it's right in your face. Well, I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen. Now, each time it swings through our solar system or swings up through our solar system, it goes around the sun, goes right back down. But it only goes through roughly 1/3 of our solar system. Since the ecliptic, the orbit where all of our planets out towards Pluto, Pluto's not a planet anymore. We're almost all level, except for a small, to the left, downward shift. This Marduk, Nibiru, started from the brown dwarf we call Nemesis. And it has its orbit, its ecliptic, at a lower orbit, about 30 degrees, 30 to 40 degrees than what is in our ecliptic in our solar system. So our two solar systems are connected. Now, when Marduk came up at the wrong time, accidentally when Tiamat was in the same area, it smashed Tiamat, went back down, went up around the sun, and then back down. That's why they had a hard time finding it, because no one was looking down that far below the ecliptic of our system. They were all looking out towards Jupiter or Saturn, think it was way out there. No, it's down below our solar system, where it comes up right where Tiamat used to be. That's where the asteroid belt is now. Because when Marduk came on second orbit, where Tiamat was, it smashed half of Tiamat into the rubble and set the other half inwards towards the sun, where we got into the third orbit. And that's why there's this huge, they think, a lot of the scientists, including Zecharia Sitchin, think that because half of Tiamat went into the third orbit and then it helped heal itself, that's why in the Pacific Ocean there's a huge expanse of nothing until you see the other side of the planet. I'm no expert, so I can't say it. No, Zacharias Sitchin said that. Scientists he talked to said that. And I'm going to tell Zacharias Sitchin was a very well-educated man, far more educated than I'll ever be. He had talked to all these people, did his own research. He had the ability to go back through the ancient Hebrew language to find everything, to put everything together on the blackboard. So he's up there as far as I'm concerned. His niece with her book, she knew a lot from her uncle, so hopefully a lot of it passed on to her. I'm trying to find out how to get a hold of her to tell her that this is exactly what her uncle actually found out, that we know now matches exactly what he knew, put in his books. So if any of your readers know how to get a hold of Janet Sitchin on Facebook or through anything else, that's Janet Sitchin, Sitchin.
I think she's on Facebook
under
a public figure, Robert. If you go try to look her up under a public figure, and then you can private message her. But I'll do some research for you and see if I can find some contact information for you on that. One of the things I want to address is the fact that this is going to affect our magnetic poles and the magna in our planet. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with this article, but there is an article here that I had posted today on Facebook that there's a town in Canada that the people in the biggest grocery store in this town in Alberta, Canada, people cannot get their car keys to work. They can't get their remotes to work. Sometimes their cars won't start. The remote won't unlock their cars. And well, let me read if this has been going on for 4 weeks. Let me read a little bit of this article. The good people in a small northern Canadian town are calling attention to the ongoing war with the mysterious and invisible force that has been killing car keys and leaving drivers stranded in the parking lot of the town's largest grocery store. This is a CBS reports this. For weeks now, dozens of shoppers at the Westview Co-op in Carstairs, Alberta, have walked out to their cars, arms full of grocery bags, only to find that their radio-based smart key no longer works. Sometimes they push the button, ignition system will fail to recognize it and refuse to start. Other times, it won't even unlock the vehicles. Stranger still, people are also reporting car alarms going off and for no apparent reason. And I'll leave it there. It's just bizarre. Now, as soon as I heard this, I thought, wow, I wonder if this, because we're tipped and it's only happening in this grocery store parking lot. It's not happening in the whole town. Are they in a dead spot, do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm not sure, but it's very interesting. I've been seeing and reading a lot of stuff where people are mentioning that the Earth is wobbling, that the magnetic poles are growing weaker, and that stuff like this is starting to happen more and more. I'm no expert. I can't say exactly, yes, this is what's happening, because I don't know. I know what's coming. I know it and its 13 satellites are already affecting the Earth. Our weather has been going nuts.
Right.
For a while.
Well, let me address something else here. let me address something else real quick here. Um, you know, the fact that the weather is going crazy, but if you remember a while back, there was a large transformer that blew up in New York, and there was a big, bloom. They said that was over it before it blew up. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but I found out that in the month of January, there were several transformers that blew up. And one of the things that I recommend is that uh, people get prepared for a grid down. Like I said, I think that before the actual planet spins around the sun and grabs a hold of us and we go through the shift, we are going to be going through a lot of weather and a lot of losing the power. And just as I said, we are going through this. I mean, the cold weather. Something blew up here in Michigan at the gas plant down there in Romulus, I think it was. And they ended up, the governor came out and ended up saying emergency. If you don't turn, everybody doesn't turn their thermostat down to 65 or below, they won't be able to keep supplying gas for everybody. And they were concerned that the nursing homes and that were going to not have any kind of heat. It is affecting us as far as I say our electrical, our heating, and I think that it's just going to get worse. So, like I'm saying, is I think everybody should prepare for power outages. I mean, no one even thought that it would affect gas, but it did. And I think that this is going to increase as the closer it gets, the more intense, the more it's going to affect our planet. And if you add all these things up with car remotes not working, power grids going down, 7, 8 of them around the United States, the gas blowing up and going down, I mean, just add it all up, you can see this is just different. It's not something that we see every day. And you can't deny that this is happening. And it just seems like we need to wake up. Don't you think we need to wake up?
Yes, I do. And here's another one for you. Back in New Jersey, it was so cold, the frozen water in the pipes had a nuclear plant shut down today. Okay? I don't know where. I saw this one YouTube video really quick. I haven't had a chance to check it out, where this nuclear plant was forced to shut down because the cold had frozen the water coming in and it was going to cause a lot of problems. But yes, I mean, any person, if the planet were to suddenly shift, or if the crust around the planet were to suddenly shift, all the power lines would be down, the gasoline plant, the crude oil plants would all be down, the nuclear power plants would all be going supercritical, would be blowing up if they weren't shut down fast enough, or whatever. A lot of things are not going to be there. No power, no gasoline, no cars running. You're going to be walking, hoofing on a horse, riding a bicycle. That's what this thing's going to do to this planet. No ifs, ands, or buts. Worldwide. Everyone's power will be out. Everyone's water system will be out. Everything, sewage plants, plants that make medicines. You won't have your medicines. Kind of makes you wonder why the Georgia Guidestones were made back in 1979, saying never let the population go above 500 million again. Just like Pope John Paul II said in 1980, what if the world's oceans would cause all this problem, killing millions in minutes? That's the stuff that's coming up. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, some people are preparing for this. They're getting solar power backpack chargers to charge up whatever they have with them in their backpacks. They've got the hand crank lanterns with a solar thing on top where they can light their tent when everything goes dark. Okay? They're getting emergency rations, MREs, or God knows what else. Okay? Because this thing's going to affect the entire planet. So not only will humanity be worried, but all of the other animals here on planet Earth are going to be freaked out. They're going to be looking for a meal, and they'll be looking for whatever stupid humans right in front of them that didn't prepare. So yes, this is what's coming. Only the elite, which have these underground houses that I've been posting on Facebook for a long time now. These houses were by one company, it's called the Ark Company, that was selling these things underground for like $3 or $4 million just for your own house. And you're one of a whole bunch in these underground things that they would build and have built. Okay? Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, all the high-ranking elite think they don't have to worry about this because they built these huge underground things, and when everything starts to become really clear in the skies, where everyone starts to freak out, they will just run, fly to their underground holes, and they'll slam the doors shut. And everyone, just like this high-ranking engineer up in Norway back in 1980, he said the dumbs are only for the elite. The general population is going to die. He made that very clear in this post he made that Project Camelot put out for a while, then they pulled it, but now it's back up. And I have the link for that. I think I've shown it to you all. If not, I'll send it to you tonight. But, yeah, it goes into great detail how they built these underground things, that they have all these rail systems between the different deep underground military. They're all connected somehow, some way. And they're only for the elite. And the elites think that when the dust settles and everything is all set, they're going to pop back up, including the religions. Okay? That's why the Vatican has a deep underground military base up in North or South Dakota. Muslim religion has one over here. The Jewish religion has one over here. I don't know about the other ones, but I know they're here in the United States. What is the United States still? See, everyone is being prepared for this. John Moore, and he's a Marine who turned Marine intelligence, and all of his friends kept warning him about something. He started doing his research into it. Edgar Casey, before he died in 1945, made up this map of the United States after a pole shift, showing the entire west coast is gone, except for islands. The islands next to us here in San Francisco is Yosemite and Lake Tahoe, and a huge island chain going up to Canada. The West Coast shoreline is back in Colorado. The Native Americans have had many dreams, many prophecies, and theirs tell a very clear what's going to come. That everything west of the Rockies is going to be underwater. That the white man is going to kill himself off, raping, looting, and the Native Americans, the Hopis, probably they're going to be left alone with what's left of the remnant of humanity. So, the FEMA camps, they were built from the East Coast up into Alaska, to the West Coast, down to Mexico, and on a couple islands down in Mexico. And why do you have to have a FEMA camp for? That's for the survivors. Because the elite are going to have a workforce. Very clear, a workforce.
Well, they have those camps in
rebuilding.
Canada. They have those camps in Canada, Australia, Europe. Those camps are everywhere, Robert. I've had a lot of targeted individuals that had emailed me. We had talked about these camps. One of the guys that had emailed me, it was in Europe, and he said that, well, they got camps like that over here. And I said, well, what do they call them? And he said they call them emergency relief camps. So that, they've got them everywhere. They're just different names for them.
Okay. That's what's
so why
coming,
would they? But that's a question. Why would they have them around the world? Because they know that after the event happens, they're going to need these things around the world, And Al Cuppet says, "Don't whatever you do, don't go there."
But then you have to have some place to go to. You have to have people that you go to that are not going to kill you to take what you have. You have to have these groups, which are actually starting right now. They're keeping it quiet. See, the black helicopters, if they're even survivable after this happens, are going to be looking with their forward-looking infrared for anything that gives off heat signatures. So anyone that's sleeping in a tent, you have a heat signature. You have a bunch of people that survived in a big camp, you have a huge heat signature.
Yeah, do you know how to get around that?
Thing.
You know how to get around the heat signature being picked up? Hide under a pine tree.
How's that?
Hide under a pine tree. I saw this on when they were tracking somebody, and they lost track of them, and that's how they lost track of them. I guess they can't pick up your heat signature under a pine tree.
Okay. Well, a friend of mine, when I first really started to get into this, she told me to get everyone prepared. She gave me this job. I'm quite sure she gave other people a job also. She said to prepare a backpack for you and your family, have implements for at least 6 months. Okay? That's exactly what she told me. tell them to prepare a backpack, sleeping bag, food, other types of stuff, knives, guns, whatever, you think you're going to need. I'm not going to tell you what. Put all this stuff together for you and your family, or you by yourself, because you're going to need that to survive somehow until the ETs decide to come in and help the survivors, or the emergency people that lived help you survive. But everything's going to be down. That's very clear. The Earth's crust is going to take out all the petroleum plants. It's going to take out all the electrical stuff. It's going to take out everything you need. Food places. You won't be able to go to Safeway anymore except for the loot.
Nope.
Until Safeway's cleaned out, or like you have back there in Michigan, I think you have. You don't have Safeway. You get some other chain back there. Once those chains are looted, and everyone will have to loot them, you have to live. Okay? So at first you're going to go through all the dry stuff. Then you're going to go through all the canned stuff. And then the survivors are going to have to learn how to hunt, like we did back in the 17, 16, 1500s.
That's what, that's one of the things people need to do is there are so many books right now that teach you how to survive, and videos. Even if you don't want to get a book, go start looking at how to survive videos. I have educated myself so much on this that, there's things that I never knew. Like, for instance, I'll give you a couple tips. You can peel the bark off of a pine tree and cut shavings of the base of the tree off and eat that. That's high content vitamin C. You can also shave that wood off a pine tree like that. You got to peel the bark off of it and boil it and drink the water. That is nutrition and vitamin C. There are so many things that you can learn, where people are starving. And I learned this off of You Think You Can Survive on the Weather Channel. And it showed people that were stranded in the mountains that went walking for help, and they starved to death. And there were pine trees everywhere. So all they had to do is strip that bark off and eat and chew on that tree, and they would have survived, but they didn't know that. They didn't know that. Plus they had tennis shoes on and their feet got frostbite. You can, if you get stranded in your car like that, you can take your seat belts, cut them off of the car, cut slices in your floor mats, run your seat belts through them, and make a boot that goes around your shoe that will protect you in the snow. There's all kinds of things that you can learn to survive if you just go out there and start looking for it. There is a dandelion. You know those dandelion plants that grow real tall and they got dandelions on the top of it? That plant is a painkiller. You can take that plant, take the leaves off of it, grind it up a little bit, boil it for about a half hour, then sift it through like a nylon or something, squeeze it through there, and take that content and cook it down to a paste, and that's a painkiller. I mean, those are things that people need to find out because, like you said, there's not going to be a pharmacy anymore. You're not going to go to the grocery store. So you need to learn things if you're down to where you are starving, that there's something that you can do, to eat until you figure out how you're going to get through and grow some food or something, or hook up with a community that has survival that God forsaking will take you in. But, these are the things we need to do. Don't you agree, Robert?
I agree. John Moore has been on his website. I can't think of his name right now. He's been talking about this for a couple of years now. Telling
LibertyMan.com.
people they. Yes,
John Moore's
thank you.
LibertyMan.com.
Right. To have seeds in your backpack so you can start growing stuff. Back during World War II, they used to call them truck gardens, where almost everyone had to have their own garden just to feed themselves, because almost everything was going towards soldiers. And a lot of people, some people do have huge gardens, have the ability. John Moore has been pushing this for a couple of years now. I know you have been pushing this. I've been trying my best on Facebook to push this. Only so many people are going to listen. Other people are going to say, well, look at that huge wave. I'm just going to stay right here so the wave takes him on the other side. Okay? Some people are not going to do anything. They're going to try and loot, and that's it. Take what everyone else has.
Yeah.
Other people are going to be being prepared. So,
well, one of the
like
cheapest
I said, this
things,
one lady,
one of the cheapest things and the easiest things to do is buy sprouts, because you can buy sprout seeds and store them for a long, long time. And then you can just lay them out on a cookie sheet or a platter or whatever, put water on them and let them grow. And those are high protein, very nutritious. You can live off sprouts for a long time. And that's something that's really, really cheap and easy to do. Look it up, you guys. Go up and look up growing sprouts, or look that up. That's something very easy to do, and that will keep you alive.
or you can buy
Go
one
ahead.
of the
Go
books
ahead,
that
Robert.
tells you what plants out in the wild that you can actually eat, what plants you cannot eat. Because there's a lot of plants out in the wild that you can eat, like the needles from a evergreen tree. Those trees, you can put those needles into boiling water, and you can drink the tea from that. Other than carving the bark off to the parts of the tree, the needles, if you're living in an area where those trees are, otherwise you have to eat what's available around you or go to an area that has all these plants that you can eat. Now these books are out there. You can get the videos on YouTube that tells you virtually the same thing. You have to have a book that has color pictures so you can, that looks exactly like what's in front of me. I can eat that. Okay. Or this berry that you see on a bush has to be the exact looking berry you see in your softback or hardback book you got with you, so you know what you can eat, what you cannot eat. So yes, a lot of you are going to have it. At this time, I would say grab it right now and then read it as quickly as you can, get as much knowledge as you can, have as many things, water purification things that people make. There's one company called Katadyn, Katadyn, the hiker, Katadyn hiker microfilter. This thing will filter the water stream or whatever you have in front of you, where you can actually drink the water after it has filtered it. Now they have, by the same company, they have pills that you can buy, that you can put these pills, you have to put a couple of pills in so much water, and it chemically cleans it where you can drink it. Now, YouTube has a lot of videos showing these hiking filters by Katadyn. So you can see them on YouTube. You can go to your hiking place or Dick's or what other store that sells hiking equipment, stuff like that. You can buy these emergency filtration filters so you can drink, because you can actually not eat for months with no problem. Otherwise, you get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, and then you start eating your own body. But you can't last more than 5 days without water. Okay? A number 1, water. A number 2, salt. The human body sweats. Walking, cleaning up, whatever, you sweat. Without salt in your body, you do not sweat. You heat up and you die. So A number 2 is salt. Whether it be sea salt or land salt. There are actually 2 types of salt. Actually, several more than that. Salt is number 2. Number 3 is food. Rats, cats, dogs, possums, raccoons, deers, bears. You have to have protein. Protein helps you keep your muscle up and keeps a lot of your body things going. If you have ability to fish or just to spear a fish in a lake with a rod, you've got food. Then you have to have somewhere to sleep. Tent, dome, a cave, or whatever. You have to have fire to keep yourself warm. There's a lot of fire-making material out there on the market that you can set fire to your cook fire, just small fire. There's all kinds of different stuff. There's how to start them. Then you have to have something to sleep in or on. You have to have a sleeping bag type thing, or you have to have branches one on top of the other till it's nice and soft. Watching all these survival shows shows you how to do that. Without all this stuff, it's bye-bye time. You're seeing your maker, you're seeing your relatives, which a lot of people I've talked to over the years say they're going to do that. They're just going to jump in front of that big tsunami. It takes them out. They're on the other side. They don't have no more problems. But if you intend to survive, that's what you're going to have to do. You have to have the will to live, the will to survive. Without that will to survive, you might as well say goodbye right now.
Well, the thing is,
sorry, Bad
we
Baby.
don't know. We don't know when our time is going to be up. I mean, God has that written in the book, but I most certainly don't want to spend 30, 40 days wandering around starving to death when I can, if I am wandering around, I can learn how to do a few things to help myself out. Or even, my children, my grandchildren, or anyone that's with me. I don't want to watch anyone suffer, so I would rather use my head than use my ignorance.
Agreed. Exactly. And that's what a lot of people will start to do. I mean, our ancestors, they had no problem, going out getting raccoons or possums, chopping them up, possum stew, raccoon stew. You know, they know by hunger. Hunger tells you to do certain things to live, to stay alive. That's where the brain comes in. Hunger tells the brain, you better eat. How can we eat? Do we see a raccoon? Do we spear it? Do we spear a rabbit? Hunger drives, but hunger also drives the stupidity of killing other people for what they have. That's the one part that's coming up. I'm sorry. There's no way around that. Everything that I've seen from the Native Americans, what they're warning about, what the other things, or what's been done. The funny thing is, BADBABY, and you know this, FEMA brought in from France so many guillotines. That's right, my friends, that nice thing that you saw chop off the head of Louis and what's her name from France years ago. FEMA, the United States government, bought guillotines, a huge amount of them from France. And they're here in the United States. Now, FEMA went to a company down in Mexico and had over 16,000 blades made. And they were shipped up to the United States. To over 16,000 guillotine blades from Mexico were bought by FEMA.
Yep.
FEMA
and
shut down
Al Cuppet says those are in the FEMA camps.
Several of the camping food suppliers for over a year, several years ago, just to supply food rations for the elite and the storage. They were working 24 hours a day for over a year, making all this dried food, the military food, everything else, for storage for the elite. Those big, huge train cars that are double-deck, where you see cars and trucks on, they started building somewhere around 2010, massive amounts of those. And they put big metal plates over the sides that had holes in them for ventilation. Now, over the years, a lot of my friends said they went over to them, they took pictures of them, they found them on sightings that were just newly made, and they looked inside of them and they had shackles welded on the inside of both layers, both decks. Now, why do you have to have these train cars sealed up just for air going through with shackles welded on the inside on both layers, upper and lower decks? Why do you need to do all this stuff if you're going to be helping people?
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
all of my years watching one disaster film after another, and they said very clearly they would not give you any warning because more people would die trying to get out of the cities in car wrecks, this and that, than if they said nothing. So there's a good chance, there's a possibility that they will give you a warning, or you will find out about before they shut off the internet, or they shut off the telephones, shut off your TVs. Or when you hear somehow that all the ships are pulling out of the harbor at fast. I don't think any of the surviving governments are going to allow their navies to be destroyed in their home ports. They're going to send those ships out to the middle of the ocean to ride it out. That way, they bring in the new world order. That term has been banged around for about 10, almost 20 years now. I wonder why. Because they know only so many people are going to be surviving, so many countries are going to still be around, and a few, and probably one or two countries will be in charge.
Yep.
And it might not
And
be the United States anymore. It might be China, might be Russia. Who knows?
Did you know that they were saying on the global awards this year, everyone wore black, and they said it was to tell us that it's over. This is the end. You know, you got to watch these little subliminal messages. Here's another thing that I found that was interesting today. The new Taco Bell commercial shows that nacho fries came back, but they came out of a black hole in space. I was like, what the heck?
Well, I'm sure, Bad Baby, that when you look up in the sky and you see this big red thing that isn't being hidden anymore by the chemtrails or by something called blue beam, and everyone else is seeing it, then you know it's almost too late. Because all the people that I know have been saying, get prepared now, sit on your preparedness until the powers that be run for their bunkers, then you have to get in the high mountains, as high up as you can, at least over 2,000 feet, heading upwards towards, say, 5,000 to 7,000 feet. Because that's where all the preparedness has already been set for. Around the oceans, the huge tsunami, which goes anywhere from 5 miles tall to several thousand feet tall, will sweep in all around the planet. Because when the Earth's crust starts to shift, at some point it's going to stop. The oceans will go with the crust, but when the crust stops, it's going to go voomp, 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 back and forth like you in a bathtub until the oceans settle back down to their new positions. And those new positions were put out by Edgar Cayce and by several other psychic-type people that said they were told this information, and they had these maps made up saying exactly what's going to be underwater. Now, these images I have that show the Earth's crust shifting downwards southwest those came from a group that I got into several years ago, and I was able to keep the images. They clearly show the equator shifting up towards, like, say, around Arizona, Texas. Now, the equator has the heaviest part of the ocean because of the rotation. So that's where everything now is going to be underwater. That's where the new equator is going to be. And that's where these psychic guys, they show Europe is all underwater, all the way back to Russia and parts of Russia. England, all the way. The island of Malta, where my wife's parents came from, underwater. Huge parts of Africa, underwater. The Middle East, huge parts underwater. Italy is almost completely underwater. South America, huge amounts of South America are underwater, according to these psychics and their predictions, because what their God told them, this is what's going to happen. Prepare for it. It's like God putting his finger on the reset button for the entire planet. This was done 3 times in ancient human history. From Emperor Yahoo over in China, 2900 BC, Noah's flood, Zayasuda's flood, somewhere around 12,900 years ago, and then the Exodus, 1,615 years ago, BC, before Christ, 3,500 years ago, almost exactly right now. Because every time Nibiru swings through our solar system, the Earth is not in the same place. We orbit counterclockwise around our sun. Nibiru, Marduk, orbits clockwise around Nemesis. So every time it swings through, we're not in the same area, and it doesn't cause the same amount of damage. In some parts of our orbit, it causes problems. And that's where a lot of things happened over the centuries. I could go down the list, and we'd be on this radio show for several hours going through all the things that I think happened when we went, if you go back 3,500, 3,500, back to ancient history, what happened back then? And I think each time it would, doop, that's what happened. Doop, that's what happened. But these ancient accounts still exist that tell exactly what happened then. Zacharias Sitchin went through a whole bunch of all these ancient books and came up with his books, The 12th Planet. Immanuel Velikovsky also went through all these ancient books and accounts, and he came out with several books. First one was Worlds in Collision. All these ancient records he went through match up almost exactly with Zacharias Sitchin's and his books, telling you exactly what's going to happen, which has been used almost exactly, showing what's coming now. NASA, back in 2007, somehow imaged Nemesis with its 6 planets then. I'd like to be able to tell you how they did that. I don't know. I do not honestly know how the hell they imaged it. I've got the photograph. They were leaked years ago. NASA imaged Nibiru with and they put 13 lines over Nibiru going out to these things that orbit around it. The image was cropped. It was leaked. I have it. I have a nice image that came from Google Earth Sky several years ago that showed Nibiru. And they started blacking out whole portions of the image that you could see. I have these images, and it clearly shows 6 things orbiting nothing, because you cannot see a brown dwarf star with your naked eyes. It has to be seen using infrared technology. I have NASA's images from 2008 showing the red brown dwarf star in the center of these other white things around it. These were all leaked years ago by scientists and their friends to warn everyone else, or from the Vatican, certain people in the Vatican to their friends to warn them. That's why Luca Scantamburlo found out about the return of Planet X from an Italian friend called Christopher Barbato in the early 2000s, because a high-ranking Jesuit priest was sent by the Vatican to go talk to Christopher Barbato. And he brought along a video from a very secret space probe that had been launched from Earth in 1995. It went way out past Pluto in just a few months. It met up with Nibiru coming in. It imaged it, it videotaped it, and did a whole bunch of other things we'll never hear. It returned to Earth in just a couple of months using a highly advanced impulse engine, not impulse, ion engine. And it downloaded everything to a secret Jesuit base up on a HAARP facility up in Alaska. Christopher Barbato told his friend Lucas Scantamburlo only so much. He did this video, 2-hour video with Project Camelot. You can find it on YouTube still, called The Return of Planet X. And he goes into great detail about President Eisenhower and Bishop Los Angeles Francis McIntyre in 1954. 1955, Eisenhower met with these called the Nordics. They're in New Jersey at the one based in. My brain's going blank right now. And the Pope Pius XII, he met with the Anunnaki in the Vatican Gardens. Very clearly, he met with the Anunnaki in the Vatican Gardens. The Pope described the Anunnaki as a warrior race. And yes, Planet Nibiru is coming in.
Wasn't that McGuire Air
That was
Force Base in New Jersey? Was that McGuire Air Force Base or Wright-Patterson?
No. My brain. I mentioned it earlier, and I forgot again who it was, because Eisenhower went 1954 to Edwards Air Force Base, what used to be called Muroc Army Airfield, but he met in 1955 at this base in New Mexico. I can't remember the.
But you know, they're having
right now.
They're having a special on right now called Project Blue Book that I've been watching, and it's all based on true events. And I'm pretty sure that's on the History Channel too. Don't hold me to it, but look it up. You know, I mean, maybe it's on YouTube now. I don't know, but I've been following it. I'm into the third week of it, and they're showing how, you know, that the UFOs crashed, and we studied them and kept it secret, and it's a really interesting series that's on. But it's not called Blue Beam. It's called Project Blue Book.
Right. The problem, Bad Baby, is this. President Truman started MJ-12 while he was in office.
Right.
MJ-12 tied President Eisenhower's hands so he could not go public with meeting with the aliens in 1954. MJ-12 caused Eisenhower to not say a thing about the meeting at that one base, and my brain's not working, period. And when he left the base, he flew out at treetop level. And when he got back to the White House, he told the White House never mention aliens or flying saucers again. And he was handing everything. He was handing everything over to MJ-12. Now,
yeah,
when Eisenhower was leaving office, he televised his leaving the office. And he was quietly telling the audience to don't trust the military and all these things that you don't know about. Very clearly, Eisenhower told Kennedy about something. You see, when Eisenhower heard about Area 51, he asked to go in there. He was told no. He was ready to send in the First Army to take over Area 51. They backed down. They allowed one person that he had to go there allowed in. He was going to send the Army to Area 51. That was kept very quiet. Now, at Muroc Field, Edwards Air Force Base, there was a hand-picked team of Western scientists and people. Randolph Hearst was there. He had his team. One person called Gerald Light was part of Randolph Hearst's team. He went through everything. They checked him out. They allowed him and other people to watch this flying saucer fly around. He said the flying saucer was being filmed, and they were taken into a big hangar or something, and they watched a huge block of something. He didn't say what it was. They watched a huge block of something dematerialize before their eyes. Not once, but several times. He swore to not tell anyone about this thing, but after he left the area, he wrote a letter to his friend down in San Diego, told him everything he saw. President Eisenhower was there. The Bishop of Los Angeles was there. He named him by name. He said the Greys were there, a reptilian-looking race was there, and an interdimensional race called the Etherians. He said they glowed fiercely. This process that he detailed, he used this one term in this letter, which still exists, and I have a copy of it. Dematerialization. That term was not used in any book, TV show, or movie until 1965, when Star Trek used the transporter beam. Gerald Light used the term dematerialization. So the ETs had transporters back then.
Yep.
Now Eisenhower has been told to made several deals, because when Eisenhower met with the ETs in 1955, the ETs said, don't go by those treaties you did with the other ones. He was told very clearly that. Do not honor the treaties you did with them. That's when we started to have the abductions. People were being abducted by the ETs from their cars, from the ground. They were picked up. They did something chemically, a shot or something, where the memory would either not be there or it would be badly confused, like Betty and Barney Hill.
Yep.
But they also
I saw a show once where it was a true story where a group of people went up into the mountains to camp, and they'd go up there every year, and the one guy kept feeling like something wasn't right. He kept getting this feeling that something happened while they were there. So he went and had deep hypnosis regression done, and little did he know that, and they always felt like they had to go to the same spot every year. They were all at a certain point turned into like zombies and walked. This is what he talked about under deep hypnosis. They walked in a line, single file, down this trail and into a craft, and they were experimented on. He remembers them being on tables and examined. And the other thing that he remembers is having sex with other men's wives that were there. and the ETs were watching them. So they were instructed, I guess, to do all these things. But this guy brought this out under hypnosis, and he refused to go camping up there ever again after he was, they taped it and then they played it back for him, and he couldn't believe what he was hearing. But yeah, they went into a disc type craft every year, and they were compelled to like go to this spot every year. So they were being experimented on. But Robert, we've burned through 2 hours. Actually, we're a little bit over our time.
It always,
So yeah,
this always happens when we start. We could go on for several hours mentioning everything that's been
I
happening.
know. I
But
know.
like you said,
well, we'll have you come back.
your listeners can.
So
ahead.
before you leave, we'll have you back. Before you leave, though, you did mention that you have all these photos and letters and that. And I know in your photo section of Facebook, there's an immense archive. So why don't you tell everybody how they can find you on Facebook? I know your web page is down, but go ahead
Right.
and look them up on Facebook and go into it because your page is open to the public, correct, Robert?
Yes, it is. You have to look for Robert H. Evans, EVANS Jr. Jr. in Facebook, and I've been trying. I'm maxed out with friends. You can only have 5,000 friends on Facebook, so I'm maxed out. But every time I go on, I check. Okay, all these people left, so I pick new people to fill in their spots as soon as I can. But yes, if you find me on Facebook, you can see exactly what this thing looks like. As I get the images, they're right there on my Facebook page. My page has that big image of that red thing coming straight in. One of the images recent was nighttime, so here's the moon, and just to the right of the moon, here's this nice, clear, sharp red object. The red object is the planet Nibiru, which has gone by a whole bunch of different names, so don't be confused.
Okay, Robert. Well, thank you so much for coming out and sharing with us tonight. And hopefully when we have you back, we'll have this phone situation straightened out so we don't talk over each other. We don't have the delay. But did the best we could tonight, folks. And I want to thank you, Robert. You stay safe over there with the bad weather that's coming your way. And we'll keep in touch. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes also.
Yes, happy birthday.
Oh, don't remind me. Okay, sweetie, I'll be in touch with you.
Why?
And
You're only 26 years old. Why do I have to keep worrying? Well, 26, all right, no problem.
I love you too. Oh, I need more friends like you. Okay, Robert. Well, I will give you a call and hopefully we can get this posted up on YouTube and I'll send you out a copy. And I will have you back as soon as I can.
Okay, have a nice night.
Thank you. Good night. And on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I have a couple things I want to announce real quick before I get out of here. I did have it posted that Marshall Masters was going to be on the 8th. I did not realize I double booked that date. So I have emailed Marshall and asked him if I could move him back to the 22nd because Robert Guffey will be coming out. I don't know if you all remember Robert Guffey. He is the professor that wrote the book Camilio. That is a true story, but he wrote it in fiction to protect the people's names about his friend that was targeted by the military in California. So that's a very compelling story. I'd like to re-interview him. Like I said, I'm going to start re-interviewing some of the people that were deleted. And the other thing I wanted to mention tonight is that there is an imposter on TalkShoe that has put up my logo, Fight for Our Freedom Radio. There are no recordings over there. If you look for me, my window is still 43503. This person's got a new window. There are no recordings. It has a big long intro number, and they made sure that their Fight for Our Freedom Radio is all in small case letters. I think the reason they're doing this is to try to confuse new listeners to go over there and go, wow, there's no recordings here, what's going on. So don't be confused. I've been out here for like 16 years, you guys, and it's all capital letters. I'm never going to open up another window that you can see this other person's name there. uh, I think it all has to do with trying to stop people from listening to my shows, which it won't happen. Anyways, those that know, just if you have a new listener out there, someone that says, I went, there's no one there, straighten them out that there's an imposter out there. And it doesn't matter anyways, because I am absolutely downloading my shows and putting them up on YouTube also. So you know what? You're not going to stop me. I'm going to be out there. I've got the force of the Lord behind me, and you're not going to stop me at one bit. I have no fear of it. So, whatever. Put up your fake windows or do whatever you got to do. You're wasting your energy. And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining me. Like I said, next week I will be having Robert Guffey out here. And then after that, let's see, who else do we got coming in? Oh, it's I know it's a planet. Oh, Dave Dobbs. That's another one that was deleted, was Dave Dobbs. Dave Dobbs is over there in London, and he'll be getting up at 2 a.m. to log in and do an interview with me. But he has the 200-day projecti theory, and it's very interesting. It's been spot on. So we will have Dave Dobbs on after that, and then hopefully Marshall will be coming in the week after that. So anyways, you all have a wonderful, safe night, and I love you all, and thank you for joining me. And remember, Bad Baby loves you.